Okay, we are live. So 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the In the Net podcast. We're going to be talking about Gareth semi. It's just me and Hugh today because Ibby's busy with family things, which is sort of what happens in life, and Lamb's not with us because he can't get a computer to work. So, Hugh, there's only one place we can start, and that is with the 4-0 demolition of footballing giants Ukraine. What did you think of the game, mate?
Well, I see what you did there with the title. Very, very original. Very imaginative. And second of all, I'm not sure if Shevchenko was suffering on the back of Peter Crouch trying to FaceTime him with Jamie Redknapp on live TV.
It's so cringe, wasn't it?
Do you know what? It was one of the maddest things that you'd see on TV, and you're thinking like, what? Why? First of all, he
Yeah,
downs a pint, and then he gets Shaver to try and FaceTime, or Redknapp to try and FaceTime Shaver, and they managed to get him on live TV. But yeah, I don't know if that's part of the madness, but yeah, I think credit is where it's due for England. Ukraine, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I think they probably ran out of legs against Sweden in the quarterfinal.
yeah,
In the round of 16, and then going to the quarterfinal, if you've played 120 minutes with half your players basically running on fumes, and also some of them just putting off getting cramp or getting subbed off for injury, coming up against England was always going to be a tall order.
yeah,
And I think it kind of showed. They tried to play a back five to begin with, and then obviously they had that injury, and then after that injury, they tried to change the tactics and go 4-3-3, which I think was probably the wrong choice to do because it opened the game up. I mean, they had chances in the first half, but I think after the second goal came in, yeah, it kind of knocked them out completely, and they just lost it from there on. I think well played to England for staying disciplined. We got two early goals in the first and second half, and then I think as much as I want to criticize how defensive we've been playing, I think unfortunately I have to admit that Southgate got it right this time, and I think most fans were probably wrong in terms of questioning him. Also, Sancho is finally freed.
yeah, yeah. No, it was good to see him start. I thought he had a decent game. Um, yeah, I don't know whether maybe Gareth was sort of holding him back while the Man United move, sort of maybe that was weighing on his mind a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have probably involved him a little bit more in the games before, but as you said, Gareth keeps making the right calls, making the right decisions. So there's sort of only so much you can criticize him for. I mean, the Germany game, he got it absolutely spot on. And then in the in the last podcast, I think me, you, and Ibby all said that we'd go back to a back four, and he did just that. And yeah, Ukraine, like you say, very tired from the sort of 120 minutes football. I thought they looked okay in the first half. Half time, I just kept saying to my dad, early goal. I want an early goal in this second half. Early goal. I wasn't expecting it to be as early as it was, but I was absolutely delighted because in the first half, Ukraine they grew into the game. They gained confidence towards the end. So I just thought get a nice early goal. And as soon as that second goal went in, that's when you could see the tired legs. And I mean, I was thrilled that Henderson got his goal,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I mean, you look at the marking for that corner, that is the marking of a team that already knows they've lost the game.
Well, it's not just that. I think their set piece defending has been poor the entire 90 minutes. Like even the second goal came from a free kick that Maguire headed in. So like the warning signs were there. And like Jordan Henderson, I'm really really happy he's got his first goal for England. Coming in the Euros quarter final as well was fantastic, and it couldn't have been any easier because no one really marked him. He just had a run into space and had a free header.
Mm.
And yeah, I think 4-0 was a very flattering result. It was a good positive performance by England, a disciplined performance as well. And Southgate also had the chance to rest some of his players at the 60-minute mark, taking the likes of Phillips off, making sure Rice doesn't get a yellow card as well,
Yeah.
and then giving some minutes to Bellingham and Rashford as well.
It just means they're all going to get booked in the semi-final now, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't matter because all the yellow cards are now wiped out.
Yes, yes. I seen a good clip today, and it was after the third goal went in. Gareth obviously celebrates on the touchline, turns to go back towards the substitutes bench and his coaching staff, and Steve Holland walks towards him, and you can see what he says on his by lip reading, and you can just see him saying, "Get the yellows off, get the yellows off," and I I thought maybe he might rest one, but I'm glad that he kept the winning formula with Rice and Phillips in the midfield and sort of got the game into a position where it was safe before he made that change. Had he started with a different midfield to sort of circumvent the bookings ruling, then you run the risk of then being behind in the game and you're a fool for changing things. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think every decision he's made so far has been pretty good. I can't complain.
yeah.
Um, so that's sort of the England game sort of spoken about briefly. What did you think of the other quarterfinals? I got to say, I'll start. I was really disappointed with Belgium.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think Italy had the game on hold from the first minute, the first half, and you can see that they were controlling the game. I don't know why Belgium didn't turn up. To be very honest, I think they were quite lucky to get a penalty, to even get a goal out of anything for that matter. But overall, like, I would have expected more from Belgium. They had to take the risk with Kevin De Bruyne not being fully fit. Eden Hazard was ruled out. Obviously, that might have played a part without leadership of Hazard, especially for the Belgium side. But like with De Bruyne, you have to, even a half fit De Bruyne, even at Man City, you would have had to play him just for his creative ability. But we saw none of that, and I don't know if it's just fitness that crept into it, or it was just Martinez getting his tactics completely wrong and Mancini getting his tactics completely right. I was hoping that once it was 2-1, Belgium would come back into the game, but it never really happened. So yeah, disappointing all round.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with Martinez because obviously when he was at Everton and Wigan, we all knew that sort of defensively his teams were never great, but going forward, so they were always pretty entertaining. But I thought that second half especially, I think he could have made changes to change that game, but it was almost like an arrogance in a way that no, this is the way we'll find a goal. This is how we play. When I don't know, I don't think they needed the three centre halves in the last sort of 20 minutes. Could they have added a bit more going forwards to sort of make that difference? But he didn't go for it, and ultimately they paid the price. Not saying that any changes would have directly affected the result of the game, but I thought it was pretty poor from Martinez, and yeah,
Yeah, I think
he went through and they deserve it. I think they've been great in all the games. I mean, we've said before, have they been tested? And they've probably not been tested. In Austria, was it Austria or Switzerland?
Austria.
Austria gave them a good game in the round of 16. But yeah, Belgium was their big test, and I've got to say they come through it with flying colours, really.
Yeah, I think there was always question marks about both sides of, especially the defenders. Like you see the likes of Bonucci and Chiellini. I don't even think Chiellini played, or did he play? I can't remember. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think he played, but they're pushing on in terms of age. And then you look at Belgium; they have Alderweireld, who over the last 2 seasons, I think you can see that his age is getting the better of him. He doesn't have the same legs in terms of running around as he did before. Vertonghen, who's now at Benfica, is pushing on, and then you have Vermaelen, who plays in the J League,
yeah.
starting, which is I don't understand, like, why didn't they even give Dendoncker a chance just to play at centre
Or
back?
or Denea or
Yeah,
Boyata.
yeah, Boyata,
Mm,
Donnay, they're still young defenders, and that's probably what they need to look into going
mm,
forward. Um, who else? Yeah, the one thing and the one positive I can say about Belgium in particular is Jeremy Doku.
Oh wow.
I think he plays for Rennes in Ligue 1. But the way that he basically just went to Di Lorenzo, started running at him and just giving him all sorts of problems. Like he was the only standout player who I thought, wow, if Belgium are going to get anything out of this tie, he's probably going to be the one who's likely to make it happen, and he's probably the
He
youngest
won the
player in their
penalty,
team.
didn't he? Yeah, yeah, he won the penalty, and
Yeah,
like you said, he was the one that really looked like he was going to make things happen. So that's a green shoot of sort of improvement for them for the next sort of tournament because they're I wouldn't say that the players are at the end of their cycle. I think the defence does need freshening up, but I think the top end of the pitch, I think they've still got another tournament or two out of some of those players. Maybe not Witzel, but
I guess my question to you then is this going to be, well, is this Belgium or was this Belgium's best shot of winning a tournament? Because if you think about the likes of Eden and Torgan Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, Carrasco, and then even though they're pushing on in age, like you do have the defense, as I mentioned before, and then you have midfielders like Witzel, and then even Tielemans you can put into that bracket. But it's a mixture of very experienced star quality players, and there's a few more coming through. But is this probably the best chance that they had of winning a tournament? And can they see another golden generation? Because it's remarkable that a small country like Belgium, with like only I think 11 million people, can produce that amount of top
mm,
quality players, and not just top quality, but world class players, in a short amount of time. Because I think they haven't had a team like this for decades.
yeah, I think the Belgians would have been sort of rubbing their hands together when France went out because obviously they were the team that beat them in the final of the World Cup. Yeah.
Semi-finals.
Sorry, semi-finals
Yeah,
of the. Yeah, it was Croatia. Of course it was. Of course it was Croatia because they beat us. Um, but yeah, they would have been the ones that they were looking at and thinking they're the ones that are standing in our way of glory. And obviously they ended up on the same side of the draw as them. And with, I mean, I don't think Belgium would have feared us. They beat us in the Nations League. Not in the Nations League, in the third place playoff in the in the World Cup, and they beat us in the group game. I don't think they'd have been as fearful as us as we would be of them. But yeah, it probably is sort of their biggest chance because France are going to redouble their focus for the World Cup, and then of course, as well as France, you've got all the top quality South American teams coming into it, and there's always a surprise package as well. So I mean, the United States are looking decent. I don't think they'll be challenging for sort of championships just yet, but they're the sort of side that are going to be beating these big European teams in one-off games every now and then now. So yeah, I think they've really missed a massive opportunity here, and it's going to be up to I think one of the four remaining sides are all going to be fancying themselves to win it, including Denmark,
yeah,
because I mean something special's happened there since Ericsson went down injured, and whether or not it's the sort of team spirit that's really been carrying them through, or whether they were almost forced to change their shape after Ericsson, obviously what happened to him, and I never thought I'd be saying this that a right-footed Danish left wing back might be my player of the tournament. It's just bizarre. They've had some really great performances from their players, and yeah, they're a decent watch as well.
yeah, for sure. I think we can come back to Denmark later, but we need to move on to the other game in particular, which is the Spain-Switzerland one.
Mm.
I did predict this as a 1-1 draw. However, I did think that Switzerland were going to win on penalties with a masterclass from Jan Sommer. Safe to say, I think Jan Sommer did quite well. It's just unfortunate that the Switzerland
As well,
penalty takers had really bad penalties, which is a surprise because they did quite well in the previous shootout against France. But I guess starting with the match itself, I would have liked to see more from Spain,
Yeah.
and I think looking at the way that they play, I mean, it was what we expected from Luis Enrique in terms of the whole possession based football. Um, it was good for them to get an early goal. Whether it was a bit of luck from the deflected shot from Jordi Alba, that's up for question. But in terms of the way that they played, it was more or less what we expected. And I think Switzerland did very, very well to come back into the game, especially losing Mbolo early on due to injury. They still somewhat gathered round and still managed to one get an equaliser. I think the red card was a bit harsh, but yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on the game itself.
Yeah, similar to you, sort of Spain, they keep the ball well, they create a good amount of chances, but they're just not clinical. And I think England fans, probably the majority of them, were guilty of writing Harry Kane off maybe in the group stages. I think Spain would absolutely kill to have Harry Kane up front because he'd score a lot of goals in that team with the chances that they do create. But having said that, if England were to beat Denmark and Spain were to get past Italy, I would really, really fancy us to beat Spain.
Okay, so I guess a side on question on the back of that: if you were Roberto Mancini,
Yeah.
would you be scared of this Spanish opposition?
No, not the way that his team protects the goal. I mean, I'd be as scared of them as I'd be as scared of any sort of top footballing nation, but I'd be quietly confident that my team would beat Spain because I don't think they're clinical enough. I think if they took half their chances, they'd be winning every game by 2 or 3 goals, but they don't seem to be clinical. They've obviously persevered with Morata, and I don't like any player getting stick, but he's had a few shockers in the tournament. But then when Gerard Moreno's played, I mean, he had 3 decent chances when in the Switzerland game, and all of them were pretty poor finishes, straight at the goalie with the easiest one, and yeah, I just think they're lacking the striker, and I don't think that any team's going to be too fearful that are left in the competition.
Yeah, I mean, bring back Fernando Torres.
Eh?
Bring back Fernando Torres.
And Xabi Alonso, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Well, they needed Xavi, then you needed Iniesta. Talking about Xavi and Iniesta, what about Pedri? Because I've been very, very impressed with him, and like what a steal signing that Barcelona have managed to pull out of. Because I've never even heard of him since before the start of last season, and
Yeah.
the way that he plays football, it's like he's almost as if he's a hybrid of the two players that I mentioned before. Like
Yeah.
he's very good on the ball, very very technical player, and he is very good at picking out passes.
Was
I
it
think
Las Palmas they signed
yeah,
him?
Las Palmas, and yeah, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him, and he could be one of the
Absolutely.
players to look out for the semi
And I think
final.
he took the winning penalty, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, at what, 19? That's
Yeah, actually, let me double check that because I confidently said that. I was like, hold on, who took the last penalty for Spain?
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
but yeah, like he's one of the players to look out
Mm.
for the semi final and possibly the future World Cup and future Euros tournaments to come.
Yeah. And obviously that game was the last of the 2 games on the Friday.
Yeah,
The the starter, the appetizer, if you like, for the England game was Czech Republic and Denmark. Um, Denmark obviously got a 2 goal lead in the first half. Nice finish from Dolberg. Um, nice header from Delaney, but the marking
yeah.
was poor from that set play.
So if I'm honest with you, I was very, very disappointed with the Czech Republic in
Mm.
the first half because Delaney's header, he literally was free. As again, I don't know why, but it seems that a lot of the corners that have been scored in this tournament have been down to free headers. It's not been like a defender or an attacking player challenging for the ball and actually coming out on top. it just seems that the marking either, I don't know if teams are opting for a zonal strategy or however they're approaching set pieces, but it seems that one or two players seem to find a run or find some space and they're left free on their own and they just head in the goals. And literally, I don't know what you can do as a goalkeeper there. Like you got to feel sorry for Vaclik, but at the end of the day, like credits where it's due. Denmark, I feel like there is like some sort of god up there, spurring on Denmark, or they're being carried by what happened with Ericsson because like the way that they've been played, it feels like they're possessed with something because like I don't know. There's something about Denmark that intrigues me. Because you think about the players that they have, like you mentioned about Joachim Mæhle, the right-footed left wing back who plays right wing back for Atalanta.
I know.
Um, what a tournament he's had. Mikkel Damsgaard as well. Like
Yeah,
what a tournament he's been having as
he's
well.
the one that's benefited from Ericsson being
Yeah,
unavailable, and he's really come in and taken his chance, which is all you could hope for as a coach, especially in a situation like that where Ericsson's one of your key players. Something so tragic and sort of unexpected happens,
yeah,
and the guy that you sort of throw in to cover that loss, and he's performing the way that he has. I mean, the coach has got to be thrilled with that.
yeah. I mean, the one thing that I will say is that there's another player who stood out for me throughout the tournament as well as Marla, and that's Patrick Schick. And once again, like he was probably their best hope of coming back into the game, and he did manage to get
Yeah,
one goal back in the second half. That being said, I was hoping that that would give them more motivation, and I think the Czechs like huffed and puffed as much as they could to get back into the game after that goal. But ultimately, I don't think it was enough, and um, yeah, it's just a shame because I think it was pretty much a first half meltdown. Well, I don't know what happened with Czech Republic in general, but it just never felt like they got going in the first half, and the first goal kind of just it was a setback, but they never really recovered from it. And then at half time, they came out and they tried to actually turn the game around, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough.
yeah. I mean, they look like a team that had been dragged out to Baku to play a quarter final, didn't they?
Yeah, quite literally.
Why on earth
Um,
we had to come all the way here when? But yeah, it is what it is in terms of the logistics. It wasn't Pedri that scored the penalty, Hugh. It was Oyazabal.
yeah, I just checked as well.
We were wrong. Hey,
Yeah, how much do we know about football? Apparently, not a lot,
absolutely not.
we have a very very short memory.
Yeah, well, that that's the sort of quarterfinals spoke about.
Yeah.
So the semi-finals, Italy and Spain. We both saying Italy.
Well, I can't see anything other than Italy. And if we're gonna go through predictions now,
Yep.
I think I would go for a 2-1 win for Italy. And the thing is, I think if Spain score first, that will probably be a more interesting game because Italy will come back fighting.
Yeah.
If Italy score first, I have the impression that Spain are just going to try and dominate possession until they find that one chance to break through, and it might be a very very long dragged out game. So
Yeah, and Italy will be happy for them to do that as
yeah,
well.
well,
Or
the historic Italy style of play would be that we've gone one go up, okay, try break us down, and
yeah,
irrespective of what Mancini does with his footballing style and getting them to play more attacking football, that's still win the Italian DNA. So yeah, if Italy score first, then I wish Spain the best of luck because trying to break through, especially the likes of Bonucci, Chiellini, or even if they play Acerbi, it's not going to be an easy task to get past any of them.
no, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. I just think Italy will ultimately be that little bit too good, and I think it will be 1-0 to Italy. I think
Yeah.
that's what I put earlier, wasn't it?
Uh, I've got the predictions loaded up here. Give me 1 second. So yeah, you said 2-1 Italy as well. So let's just have a quick look at what Ibi said. Ibi thinks it's going to be 1-0 Italy, and Lambros has gone for 2-0 Italy. So I think unanimously we've all decided to go with um, Italy here.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, they're the favourites for a reason. I think they've improved. Not even improved. They've just kept their levels up all through the tournament. And then obviously, if we're doing the predictions for the Italy and Spain game, then I suppose it would only be right if we did predictions for the England Denmark game.
I will take a 1-0 win for England.
Oh, I would,
Yeah.
100%.
And that is my prediction. I will go for that because you know what? Just get Harry Kane a goal and do what we need to just to protect it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's probably the most. I'm seriously nervous just thinking about it. I'm
Yeah.
nervous, but yeah, I think I put England 1-0, and
So
I don't know though because Denmark have been fairly frequent scorers. Maybe this is the game where we do concede. I don't know, but I think we'll have enough. I
yeah.
think the with the Gareth Southgate game plan and with the squad of players we got, whereas before in tournaments we get to the 60-minute mark and we need to change the game. All of our best players are on the pitch already. What do we do?
So
Whereas we've got options. I think we'll do it. I think
okay.
we'll be.
So if you were Gareth Southgate,
Yeah.
what would you change for this match? Given that Denmark will probably play a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2.
Yeah, I don't know. See, this is why I'm not paid Gareth Southgate's salary. I would be tempted to go to the back three again and start like that, knowing that it can be changed. Because obviously, with the 5 subs, you could make 2 changes at half time and you've still got 3 subs. But I don't know. The one thing I'm sure of, it won't be an unchanged team because Southgate's already shown that he'll pick different players for different games, and I think that they will give us things to think about. I think we'll go with a back four. I think he'll start with a back four. I think if Mount was a worry again, like he was for the Germany game, in terms of him just finishing his isolation, I think we might go to the 3 or the 5, however you look at it. But I think with Mount and his energy in midfield and his intelligence, I mean, there was in the Ukraine game when he was tracking back, and it was like he made a decision in his head. Well, it's most likely to go to Yarmolenko here, and he's the danger man. So he tapered his run towards Yarmolenko, and what happened? The ball goes to Yarmolenko, and Mount clears it.
Yeah.
So I think it won't be a great deal of difference, but I think there'll be one change. But if you ask me what it is, I'd probably struggle to tell you. Maybe Sancho.
Yeah. I would leave it unchanged, but I do feel like he's probably going to take Sancho off and start Foden instead.
Yeah. Is
That's
Saka fit again?
I'm not sure because he was ruled out of the last game.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means that he's ruled out for the rest of the tournament. But we'll see. But logically, I think given the way that Southgate is looking at this game, he's probably thinking to play Foden, give Marla something to think about. But at the same time, if you want to give Joachim Marla or Yannick Vestergaard or whoever's playing on that left side of defense something to worry about, I would personally play Sancho because that's what he's been doing in the Bundesliga all season, terrorizing defenders. So
Actually, that that what you've just said there would make me not start Sancho because as good as Sancho is going forward, of all the options on the right hand side, he's probably the
yeah,
least defensive of all those options. And if Saka's available, I think Saka might play because obviously he's played at wing back himself. So yeah, I think if he's available, I think that might be the change for Southgate. But we don't know. I don't think anybody's been right with the team prediction yet.
yeah.
We keep pulling rabbits out the hat.
I mean, the other one is I still have question marks over Carl Walker at right back. Personally speaking, like you probably if you've been watching or listening to the podcast, you probably know that my favorite starter other than Trent would probably be Kieran Trippier. But I think this game, especially if you think about the attacking ability from wing back on the left hand side, in particular for Denmark, I'd be inclined to start Reece James, because if you want a fullback who is going to keep up with an attacking threat and run exactly like for like with them, and also give them the same level of worry in terms of going forward on the other side, especially when you're in attack, he's probably the best equipped person to do that.
Yeah, I think it'll be Walker though, and I'd play Walker because he is pacey, and he's never really let Gareth down in this tournament. I know he. It's funny because he's had two sort of average performances, and then a couple of really good performances. But yeah, I can't see him changing that. But if he were to change it, I would. Yeah, like you say, Reece James is good physically, quick lad, strong boy.
Okay.
But what Nib's predictions for the England game?
So Ib's prediction was England 2, Denmark 0.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if Lamb's made a typo here, but he's gone for 2-0 Denmark.
Right. Yeah. Well, that sums Lamb up, doesn't it, when it comes to England?
Well, you say that, but I've got some stats here of our last predictions. So Lamb, interestingly enough, got all 4 of the quarterfinals correctly. As in, he predicted each nation to go through, and all 4 of those countries went through to the semi-final. Ibby got 1 out of 4.
Yeah.
I think Belgium was the main, I guess, the one playing factor in these predictions. You got 3 out of 4, Belgium being the one anomaly, and then I got 3 out of 4. I think
you had 2 correct scores.
Yeah, I had 2 correct scores. So my 3 out of 4, the one that let me down was the penalty shootout claim. So I went with Switzerland instead of Spain. I know on the graphics it did say Spain at extra time, but if you listen back to the podcast, I did say that Jan Sommer was going to pull off a surprise. So yeah, 2 correct scores being the Denmark Czech Republic game and the 1-1 at extra time result for the Spain Switzerland game. But hey, it is what it is. Let's see how close we get with our predictions this time round.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we've only got a few minutes left. I think there's a few things to wrap up on. I know we briefly mentioned about Nuno Espirito Santo joining Spurs. But there's another managerial announcement that was made today. Although it seems like it was not really kept under wraps. We all anticipating it, but Patrick Vieira is returning to the Premier League, and he's taking over Crystal Palace. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that. It's an interesting selection.
We discussed it before we went live, but whoever got that job was going to have one hell of a job on their hands. I mean, we spoke about it, and they've released more players than they've kept, and it's really going to be a rebuilding job. But apparently, he's going to be given 80 million to recruit. But does that get you very far now? That's probably like 4 Premier League standard players nowadays, isn't it? So he's going to have to be pretty shrewd with that. Of course, there's the option of cashing in on Zaha, but are you going to get more than 30 million for him at the moment? Probably not. So, yeah, I hope he does well because, I mean, grew up watching Patrick Vieira and what a player he was. Managerial wise, it's not been a huge success for him. Probably could say he underachieved at Nice, but he did oversee a big turnover in players while he was there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The last time Palace tried to deviate away from sort of a safe pair of hands and go for a stylish and exciting option in the dugout, it didn't go very well, and Frank de Boer was out the door after like 5 games. So yeah, what do you think?
I mean, starting with Frank de Boer, I think you can ask any Dutch fan or any Dutch person in general about how they feel about his managerial ability and how he's basically didn't play according to the Dutch total football way of play. But yeah, and then you can say something else about Atlanta United and how he failed in the MLS, but I think that's a different story altogether. It's an interesting appointment.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure though. I think, like as you said, this has happened before in the past, 3 or 4 seasons ago, and it didn't really work out with De Boer. And if they don't bring in the right recruitment in terms of the players that they bring in this summer, they could be in big trouble because like it's not just losing players, but like Andros Townsend, Patrick Van Aanholt, Scott Dunn, Gary Cahill, Nathaniel Klein. The list is endless, right? And if you think about it, there's a lot of experience players. Sacco as well, who used to play for Liverpool. Um, like all of these players have they may not be the best players on form, especially in their last season, but
Yeah.
they have and they carry a wealth of experience that is going to be well, it's going to have to be replaced. But how? And if they don't get this recruitment right, then I don't know. This is um yeah, I worry a lot. But given Vieira has had experience in Ligue 1 with Nice, he's gonna have to be using a lot of his extensive French football knowledge to try and get some signings in because they definitely will need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. And is it in terms of signings? Obviously, today it's sort of been more or less confirmed that Danny Ings has turned down a new contract at Southampton. Where do you think he's going to end up, Hugh? Because I know he was at Liverpool,
Yeah,
and everybody knows how talented he is, and he seems to have it all: pace, he can hold the ball up. But unfortunately, when he had his big chance at Liverpool, it was a bit of a disaster for him personally, and that was through injuries.
it's
He
no
had an
fault. No,
terrible time.
yeah, terrible time, but no fault of his own. And I think he like we all wanted him to do well. It's just unfortunate that his injuries got the best of him. Like every time we actually saw him play, there was that glimpse of potential there, and I think we saw what he can do in a Southampton shirt. But I think there is going to be a bit of a transfer merry-go-round, and I think he's probably anticipating that Kane might leave Tottenham, and someone will need to replace Kane.
He'd be
Yeah,
perfect. I mean, he's not as good as Kane, but I mean, Tottenham are shrewd operators when it comes to not spending money. They'll be sniffing out a cut price deal for him because he's only got 1 year left on his contract.
yeah.
And if they can get him for around the 30 million mark, 25 million quid, I think it's a decent signing, even factoring in that he has had a checkered past when it comes to injuries. I think he's a good finisher. And I think for strikers especially, I think them even when they come in from abroad, these big names, I think they always need a season to get up to. I mean, look at Timo Werner. I know it's probably an extreme example, but he scored goals pretty regularly for Leipzig, and he's come over here and he's struggled in front of goal. And in this, I honestly do think it's the pace of the game and the fact that every game you're in over here, you're tested. It's very rare that there's a walkover. I know Man City like to batter Burnley, but I think, yeah, I think he'd be a great signing for any of the top sort of 6 teams, 7 teams, even somebody with a bit of cash just trying to make a statement like an Everton. But
Don't see him
yeah,
going to Everton. I
no,
really hope he doesn't, and likewise, I really hope he doesn't go to United. But then again, stranger things have happened in football.
they have, mate. They have.
Rafa, Michael Owen, you know,
Yeah, need you go on.
yeah. Um, but yeah, and then just to touch up on that, so obviously there's been a few loan signings as well. So Billy Gilmore is
Yeah,
joining Norwich,
I think,
which
yeah.
I think it's going to be a great signing for a season.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's one massive transfer you've missed out on as well, Hugh, and that's Bristol City signing Rob Atkinson
Oh,
from Oxford
come on,
United for a
come
report of
on.
£1 million. But no, yeah, no, that's just a little self-indulgent joke. But yeah, I think that's a really good loan signing for Norwich, and I think it's a really good move for Billy Gilmore because they had Ollie Skip on loan from Tottenham last season, and he was absolutely phenomenal in the Championship. And I don't know if he's gone to Norwich for another year or whether he's going back to Spurs and try and get his place. But if the rumours are true about Spurs willing to sell Winks for a fair price, then Oliver Skipp's a ready-made sort of replacement that's ready to go, I think, in the Premier League because he was just so dominant for Norwich last season.
Yeah, the other one that I was a bit surprised about is if you've been following the Bundesliga, there's a player called Milot Rashica. I believe he played for Werder Bremen. Yeah, I just checked. He plays for Werder Bremen. He's also joined Norwich. And the player that I liken him to, so he's a Kosovo international. Usually plays on the left wing. The player that I liken him to is he's very very similar to Sheridan Shaqiri, like a good left foot, runs quite well on the ball as well. So in he's also Albanian or plays for Kosovo. Well, he plays for Kosovo internationally, so obviously the similarities are there. But in terms of running at players, he'll run at them. And to be fair, I was expecting a larger Premier League team to probably come in for him.
Yeah.
Possibly like Liverpool, possibly looking to rotate their squad. Everton, he would fit quite perfectly in. But yeah, Daniel Farke's working out wonders in terms of trying to get players
Oh,
in.
he's such a good manager, so good. And do you know what? Fair play to Norwich and Delia Smith and Stuart Webber for really sticking by him when they went down because I know that there was a lot of fans who wanted a change. He'd had his go in the Premier League. They wanted that change. And even all through the season, it wasn't until about March that everybody seemed to really get on board. I follow quite a few Norwich fans on Twitter. And yeah, I just think they're so lucky to have him. And there's no backing down from the way that he wants to play football, and
Uh,
that's front foot attacking, attractive football, and the fullbacks. Oh, I'm a massive fan of Farker.
yeah, Max Aarons in particular. I think he
Yes. If they can hold on to him, then that'd be huge.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I am excited about is the fact that, like, with these two signings that they've got, I know Gilmore's only on loan, but the signings that and the profile of players that he's trying to look to bring in is going to help with his philosophy because he's not going to hold back in the way that he's going to play football, like you said. And if he has players like Gilmore who are coming in who will sturdy up the midfield and protect the defense, it will allow him to play football even further up the pitch, and it's going to give like a lot of the big teams a shock to play against them if they can get the system right. Likewise with Brentford, like I really really like what Thomas Frank has done with that Brentford side because they're playing attacking football. Um, and yeah, like I hope that when they do get their chance in the big time in the Premier League, we can see that Brentford do the same as Norwich. But yeah, all to wait and see, I guess. And then I guess the final one that I wanted to mention was another loan signing, Trincao from Barcelona. He wasn't really getting game time at Barcelona, but joining Wolves. Is this the second iteration of
Let me guess, his agent is a certain George Mendes.
well, he's Portuguese.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know if George Mendes is his agent, but I wouldn't be surprised. But Bruno Lage, another Portuguese coach.
yeah,
I mean, deja vu.
yeah. I mean, I think it's Wolves, I believe, are Chinese owned, and
Yep.
when they came in, Mendes was sort of not part of the consortium, but he was attached to it, and it's worked for him. It's taken them from a championship club to a stable Premier League side. So I think they will continue to explore that sort of Portuguese market with Mendes. But I do think that they need to be a bit more inventive going forward if they want to sort of because in the Premier League now you have to be so what's the word um you have to be on the front foot with all your transfers and things like that because even moving forwards, like standing still in the Premier League, because every other team is doing the same. They're trying to bring in players to improve. So if Wolves want to take that next step, then they are going to have to get inventive with their transfers because maybe the Portuguese well's dried in terms of the players that are in their remit because Jota's gone to Liverpool and sort of they're not going to bring in João Felix, are they? So yeah, I worry about Wolves, not in terms of going down, but it's a manager who's going to be new to the league, new to the country, and yeah, I don't know. I think they might be in for a bit of a quiet season again.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a case of transition and just trying to reassert their position in the league. We are running close to time. I think one thing I will mention is that we will be discussing about some of the other topics. So I know you mentioned about Bristol City, um, and their signings as a bit of a jest comment, but we will have a Football League episode coming up after the Euros, and will also be catching up and just giving a brief review on Copa America as well, because I know that we haven't really been talking about Copa America. There's a few other international tournaments like the Gold Cup, for example, that is ongoing, but really our focus has been, given that we are close to home, the Euros is our main focal point for Internet Podcasts over the last few weeks, and will be for at least the next week or so. But yeah, one final question. We always keep on asking ourselves, is it coming home? How are you feeling now?
I don't know. I feel like it's down the end of the road at the moment, and it's so close, isn't it, Hugh? I mean, it's so close, and we've got a reasonably favourable opponent in terms of Denmark. It's not like we're playing France or Germany, or do you know what I mean? It's a team that, if at the start of the tournament I just said to you, right, we've got Denmark in the semi-finals, are we going to the final? I think most people would say yeah, but I do think they're going to be a tricky test. But yeah, why not? It's coming home.
Fair enough. That's a confident statement. I still don't know. I still don't want to jinx it. I still don't like. This is our best chance of getting a and witnessing a trophy. Like, it's the same feeling that I had a few years ago, like when Liverpool won the Champions League, challenged for the title, and then eventually, like, I don't know if you remember in school, like every season I would be saying this is our season, and then it never happened, and
Yeah,
then
yeah. I
finally,
think we're all guilty of that as kids, and then you grow up and you realise, oh God, no, we're just on a constant cycle of disappointment. But I mean, semi-finals in the World Cup 3 years ago, I was absolutely chuffed for that. I'd have probably taken semi-finals before this tournament, but now we're here. Now we've got the opponents that we got. I really, really want us to win it.
yeah. Well, let's see what Gareth Southgate can do, and hopefully we can get there and stay on for one more game and get to the
Yeah,
final.
I hope so, mate. Are you going to do your classic little wrap up now?
Yep. As always, if you liked what you were watching or listening to on the podcast, then be sure to check out our socials and make sure you do give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Please.
Yeah, please, we would really appreciate it. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers ASAP. And then maybe we'll do something special for that as well. In terms of our socials, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So that's at Internet Podcast for both Instagram and Twitter. And we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Internet Podcast. As I mentioned earlier, we are also on Spotify, but we're also on SoundCloud as well. So that's soundcloud.com/Internet Podcast. And then you just search Internet Podcast on Spotify. We should be there as well. But other than that, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've watched it or wherever you've watched it, online, live, through the podcast, whatever, we appreciate every listen or watch we can get. But yeah, on that note, thanks again, and we hope to see you soon, and then we'll see what happens after the semi-finals. Hopefully we'll be seeing England win, but you never know these days. Anything can happen in football, but fingers crossed, and best of luck for Southgate and the lads.
Really good.
All right, thanks a lot. Take care. Goodbye. Good night.